you fill the box with concrete,
There was more over there.
So, but anyway,
could you do it in stages? Say everyone here was interested in the share. So the first year we get it, we share with someone's tower because we don't want the extra cost up front. And then the following year, the year after that, then we build our own tower. So could you start with sharing and then eventually have your own tower? Could you do it in?
You could. I just, I don't know what the advantage would be. I mean, for us, if we have the money, then we just do it. We just do it. The flip side is remember, so part of that I talked about earlier, we're going from 45,000 with Patterson down to 24,000. Well, part of that is because we're not going to read the meters anymore. I mean, they are, but so we're going to get a $20,000 plus positive hit there right away to the good. So, I don't want to say it's going to pay for itself, but it will. It actually, down the road, in a couple of years, and we want to go that way, right? We want to be technologically out there where that's what people are going to expect. You're going to build a $2 million house, you got to expect there to be internet and to actually have
In the middle of a big metroplex.
some technology, right? Now, where we might be able to share, like I say, is with Aqua Texas or with Terra Southwest down there. There's possibilities down the road.
How many connections Terra Southwest has?
About 900. We're not even close to the 2,500. And even if Aqua
That's bigger than I thought they were. I didn't know they were that big.
yeah. So that goes down to the gates, and that is, was it Wellington back in there, And, if Aqua ends up doing, some on the other side of the street, that might be 300 or 400, But, so there's some potential stuff there. I think we'd probably end up, rolling into Rocky Point would be first, right on the hit parade would be Rocky Point. And the nice thing is those would only be 3/4, that'd be like 5/8 inch meters. Those are only about $200. So, meters there would be like installed everything out the door would be about $7,000. And Rocky Point's only sitting on 50,000 now. So, not even a blip, right? And they're about to double. So next year you're going to double your water revenue with Lazarus. So Rocky Point's a slam dunk, right? And you guys are going to want to do that, right, Linda?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So, because I think that's our goal, right? Is be able to read Rocky Point from over here.
Yeah, we don't want to
So I'm going to continue to flesh this out. Bill did a lot of work on it, doing the initial stuff with Neptune was another meter supplier. But I don't know, they're not RF, so were they using the cell
technology.
They're using the cell technology. And
They were at that point. That was a while back.
and cell phones scare me out here.
They're fantastic. I maintain every call I make.
Yeah, okay. You must not drive down the hill.
No, it's terrible. So we put a cell repeater on this tower where we can get our signal.
I think I could have my cell phone underneath the Verizon, yeah. So, so I'm going to keep you guys up to date on that, but the goal on that, the nice thing to try and do, if we're going to replace meters, we want to replace meters in the winter. Because that's the low season. So if you got to turn the water off to, your house, winter is easy, and we're not going to keep track of what the meter read. Okay, so whatever that month is, if we put it in on the 3rd, I don't care what your other meter said. We're resetting it to 0. So you're gonna get the minimum bill that month. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what you used up until we replaced the meter for that particular month. We're not going to worry about that fraction of the month. Just hell with it. We'll just start it at 0. Use 37 gallons this month because we put it in on the 13th. Whatever it is. So the goal would be always to replace stuff in winter. But there's still some legwork to go. Okay. Right now in the utility fund, everybody knows. Right now we're sitting at a little under $200,000 today. So this is a response to some of the issues that we've had. The issues always come up, can we have no parking in Lakewood Village? The answer is yes, if it was in Lakewood Village, the whole Lakewood Village. You can't say you can't park in front of Linda's house, but you can park in front of Daryl's house. Well, why? Well, just because. Well, no, the streets are the same width. It's the same neighborhood. There's no school in front of Daryl's house. There's absolutely nothing different in front of Daryl's house than in front of Linda's house. There's no way to justify that arbitrary enforcement. And that's always been our problem, is that it would be arbitrary. And so you have to be all or nothing, and it makes no sense. We'd have to have signs every 100 yards littering the countryside telling you there's no parking anywhere. And it would look horrible. So the flip side of that is, at least for now, we can have an ordinance that says there's no parking in a designated construction zone, which means that for now until May or June or until they're officially out of here, we can stop the parking on the street for the other side of town.
Is that a problem? Have we had a problem? Yeah.
We have a problem with this particular house having a party with 400 people and some gunshots and so if we
gunshots.
Yes. Yeah. So this is a way to minimize the amount of traffic on the street. Because you can't pull over on the side right now. You couldn't if you wanted to. At my house, there's a foot rise between the ground and the earth, and that's where all our survey stakes are. That's where we're doing right-of-way work. So it's not like over here. You can pull off in the grass in front of Linda's house, no harm, no foul. Well, you can't do it in the construction zone. You're going to hit my survey stakes. So there is logic to it that we could eliminate that. We have to get some signs. I have some paper signs, temporary signs made up that we put out periodically that would say no parking in a construction zone. It's, designated construction zone.
How do we enforce it?
Through getting it towed.
So what happens if it's, typically the problem's night. So the law isn't enforceable, 10, 11 p.m. at night. What happens then? Or what's the protocol for that?
Well, let's just say that there's, the idea would be not a single car. I mean, you gotta use discretion, right? I mean, Eric, if somebody comes to visit you and they park out, it's not about, right? You gotta use a little bit of common sense. But the idea is just that, if there's a party that 48 cars are lining the street, you can, you would call me or Daryl, start with Daryl, then call me.
So I go get my tow truck from my buddy and start towing him, is that it?
According to our city ordinance, code enforcement, or ordinance enforcement starts with me, it goes to Daryl, Linda can do it, and then anyone else the city council designates. So if the five of you want to designate Eric to be it, then the five of you can so do so. But the idea would be literally, the way I'm thinking about it is, it's a deterrent. The deterrent is there. Hopefully you wouldn't have to do anything. The deterrent says, hey, there's no parking on the street. There's signs there. If you're going to rent your house out, you got to tell them. If you don't tell them and they show up with 20 cars, they start getting towed.
Airbnb thing, is that what this was?
Yeah. So if your car gets towed or you start to see it getting towed, that's going to stop that. Okay. But that's one possibility. If you want me to look at it, I can talk to Andy, but I don't see why. The only issue about making no park, we have the discretion to make no parking anywhere we want. Under the uniform, traffic, blah, blah, blah stuff, you gotta tell them. You gotta put up a no parking sign and tell them there's no parking. That's how you make it legal. If we don't put the signs up, then we're in trouble.
Okay. Guys. Yeah, you can't tell them. Have tow.
Right. But our hope was like a lot of the stuff, if you let it be known to everybody, if you make it known and you put up the signs, and one big sign you got in the shores, designated construction zone, no street parking, that problem should stop until May or June, until we're out of here. That's ordinance. I think if you looked at the nuisance ordinance has a long and tortured history in Lakewood Village.
It's been a nuisance itself.
Yes, it's been written, at times it was written so broadly that you could make up anything you wanted. It was, anything I didn't like, I'm declaring a nuisance. And the mayor could basically go around the town and say anything they want. They can make it all up.
You had a line in there, if trash was found and it had your name, you were deemed the litterer.
Yeah, and all sorts of crazy stuff was in there. And so I remember one of the first things we did after getting elected is we just gutted it. I mean, we gutted the thing. It used to be you couldn't burn. They were trying to, you couldn't burn unless the pile was like 8 feet or less in diameter, so people just make 12 piles. It's like, okay, that's safer. It was just really stupid, kind of some of the stuff. I mean, people trying their best, but it was like impossible to enforce. Like, how do you write the words? Define a nuisance, well, it's something that really bothers me. Well, okay, that's a great legal standard. That really is going to carry the day. But one of the things that's in there, so the easiest one, obviously, is one we fell back on, was the tall weeds and grass, because that's 12 inches. So most of the ordinance deals with that, because that's a verifiable, easy to enforce thing. But there is sections in there that say, if you are, basically, making life miserable for somebody, that's a nuisance. Or if it's like fouls, it's mainly life, health, safety. Okay? The problem is, if I go and have a raging, screaming party at my house, that's not a life, health, safety issue. Okay? Is it a nuisance if I'm out there wailing? Yeah, of course. That is, that's a nuisance, right? I mean, that's normal, everything. But that's not the way our ordinance reads. We don't say in there, excessive noise or any quantity. The county has a noise ordinance, but it's so many decibels. They quantify it. And it's really hard to meet that number. But for us, we need to do something. So it's something that's going to require going back and, again, talking to Andy and saying, look, what do other cities have that address the noise angle here? Without it being, I'm not going to get out there with lasers. And it's within 27 meters of the residence, it reads no less than 82 point. We're not going to use science here. But the other issue I want to talk to Andy about would be another way to handle some issues are to do like we did with the parking ordinance and extend the nuisance to be the owner. So the nuisance is created by somebody, not necessarily the owner.
But it falls back on the owner.
But we want it to fall back on the owner because the owner is the one that has the impetus to stop the nuisance. Okay?
Controlling the property.
Right, and that's what I wanted to, because that would make it stop.
Yes,
Yeah, so, if you've got, guys at your party here that are out across the street in the neighbor's yard, yelling and screaming, at the neighbor, yeah, you're not doing it. But you need an incentive to get them the hell back over onto your property, get them out of the neighbor's yard. And that's what we want. We want ultimately the owner to have the incentive.
Here's the trouble.
And the nice thing about that is then that can also be enforced then through our court and through our municipal system. Right now, noise and everything, the only way to enforce it is through the county. And they're not going to do it. They're not hauling anyone to jail because their stereo's loud. They're not going to do that. So, I think we need to rewrite the nuisance ordinance. That's what I think. I mean, the tall weeds and grass, although it's good, putting your trash out 10 days before bulk, that's all good. We got to put in there something about, the noise, the partying, right? Some sort of, something.
So you're going to talk to Andy and get some ideas from him?
I think I'm going to try and see, who's got, does Heath have a good ordinance? Like, what's one that, because ultimately, their attorney is going to have to prosecute, right? So it's like, is there one that you particularly like that you found to be relatively persuasive in enforcing?
Yeah, and one that is easily enforceable without all the high tech and all that.
Yeah, we don't want to write it and then our own attorney said, well, this is worded, so generically, I'm uncomfortable, prosecuting this. But I think that would, my goal is to try and get some of these curbs in place before we hit the summer. That's going to be the peak season for nuisances. Right? Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to volunteer to write that nuisance ordinance instead of me?
I'll have to work on it.
Okay.
I'll read it.
I probably should.
And object to all the pieces.
Try and do the property maintenance at the same time, because tall weeds and grass isn't a nuisance, that's a property maintenance.
It's actually what the nuisance ordinance says. The title of it is Nuisance Ordinance and Property Maintenance Requirements or something, yeah.
It's right when I my council, that old.
It's been terrible. The nuisance ordinance has just been terrible. And I hate enforcing it because I hate it. It is what it is. All right, no other questions. Then we are going to go into executive session. So, all right, and is that right, Linda? We good? Anything good? Okay. All right, so in accordance with the Texas Government Code, Section 551, the Town Council recesses into session, discuss the following: 5510712, consultation of town attorney on a matter which is duty of the attorney of the governmental body, rules of professional conduct, Lakewood chapter legal advice, development agreements, development and zoning standards, 51071, to wit consultation with the town attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation, Town of Lakewood Village versus Patterson, professional services. Next over here, personnel matters, annual performance review of the town secretary, Texas Government Code, Real Property, Sam Hill, Sanctuary at Sunset Cove, and Project Left Field, and 51087, Texas Government Code to wit economic development regarding Sam Hill Ventures, Sanctuary at Sunset Cove, and Project at Left Field. We are in executive session at
8:27.
8:27?